Okay, hello and welcome to this webinar on coaching tag rugby under sevens, under eights tag rugby. My name is Dan Cottrell. So just a little bit about me. I've been coaching for over 30 years. Started up Rugby Coach weekly. Well, the first one started up in September 2003, so we're 20 years old. So I've just coached in various different guises. I am a level 3 coach, a level 2 referee. I went through a journey with my sons from under 6 through to under 16s. And what I will say about that is that I started the first session with the under 6s. A quite experienced coach. I was director of rugby at Big School Cranley School, and I tore up my session plan within a few minutes and completely changed my approach to coaching at that level. I deliver courses to coaches on tag rugby, but I'm not actually coaching tag rugby at the moment. So if you are, I would love to hear some of your thoughts on some of the ideas. Obviously, I speak to lots of tag coaches as I go along. Now, what you notice, I'm doing this in Jamboard, so it allows me to write on the board as we're going along. Just omitting a few people as we go along. And the outline for tonight is that it's going to talk a little bit about the rules of tag rugby, but mostly about how it is played and, crucially, this word which comes up a lot in coaching is the intention behind it. And once I think we understand the intention of tag rugby, it makes it a lot easier to coach because we don't then get ourselves tied up in lots of technical detail. That means it's much easier to understand what skills we've got to focus on and when we need to focus on skills. There is a tactical approach, though you're not there to create a great tactical playbook. And finally, dealing with 7-year-olds on a wet, cold, windy Sunday morning is a task that even teachers may find difficult. So hats off for you for doing that. However, there are some ways that we can make that easier. I think what we need to understand is what the game looks like at tag rugby. And really, the game is a one-pass game. Now, that's not our intention, but if we can get to 2 passes before a tag, that is fantastic. But we can still play a game which looks like rugby, but more importantly, we are just giving these players not necessarily a rugby skills background. We're giving them the skills to be better at enjoying team sport, understanding what it's like to be with people of their own age in a competitive environment, learning about losing and winning. So to make sense of the journey, we should try and break the season down into blocks, because it's a long season. And I think that the blocks, I'm going to guess for most of you, your first game is probably at least 4 to 6 weeks away. So first game, first tournament. That's the first time you're actually going to travel away with the players, or maybe hosting some teams. And that really is, let's target, get some things done by the first game. Then we look at half term. Then there's Christmas, and then half term, and then, if you're very brave, festival season. There's a block to here, a block to here, a block to here, a block to here, and a block to there. And let's have a few targets by the time we get to the first game. We'll talk about that in a little bit in terms of the skills, but it will be a little bit more about skills, but team management, understanding language, and a little bit about organization. Rather than trying to think, right, we've got to teach everything in the first week, let's not worry about that. If you come up against a team who in their first game looks like the complete team, there's probably one or two very good reasons why that is the case. And it's very unlikely it's down to coaching. Good coaches will certainly improve their teams. Complete teams may have 2 or 3 players who are naturally into their rugby. They may have grown up with older brothers and sisters who play rugby, so they know everything about the game. They're absolutely desperate to play it. They've probably been playing, watching, and therefore they're able to organise everybody else on the team. And so when they're on the pitch, they will be moving themselves around, moving the players around them, and they'll look like the complete team. Now, probably most of us will be faced with a much bigger range of players, and therefore we're looking at smaller steps. So we're going to talk about smaller steps. And the other thing is that in rugby terms, we're looking at really only 2 skills, which is pass catch, and support. And that's it. That's the only 2 skills we're going to be focusing on. Now, there's going to be some other things which are going to be underneath that, which are going to be useful. Rugby-wise, we're looking at pass, catch, and support. And in the end, you've got to sort of have a way of measuring how you're getting on, because otherwise it just looks like a blob of what's happening. You know, have I achieved anything today? That's a very hard thing to do in sport in any terms. Under rates is even more difficult. So I think you need to focus on a couple of things. In terms of player development, look at each individual and try as much as you can to pick out on, has their pass catch got better? And we'll talk about some of the things you might be looking for in that. And the second thing, has their support got better? We'll talk about that a bit later on. And in terms of team development, this is about being a better person. Now, you're not going to transform a silly or distracting or distracted 7-year-old into a player who is suddenly looking after their teammates, being kind to everybody, but you start in the process. And that's important. And I just say this evening, I'm talking to a coach before I came online, and we're talking about a boy who at 16 was very angry, self-absorbed, and over a year he had changed from 16 to 17 into somebody who was massively supporting the team, very happy to take a step aside for other better players maybe to come ahead of him, and he's a very fine player himself. So it's going to happen at different stages. We've got to start that process. He would have made it to that stage because he would have seen great behaviors from before. So tag, well, what a hell of a game for under-8s to get into their heads, because these tag belts are sent to you from someone who doesn't always think that 7-year-olds are well organized. We don't realize they're not very well organized. So I would suggest you have 2 ways of dealing with this. One is that you train for, because you've got an hour, let's train for 40 minutes without and 20 minutes on. And this period here is used as a organization period to go and put the tag belts on, and then you have 20 minutes of tag belt fun to deal with. So that's one way to deal with it. The other way is to train the whole 60 minutes with the tag belts, and they get used to wearing them. So I think there's 2 ways to deal with it. And probably what I should have said at the start is that these are ideas for you to use. They are not the absolutes. These are ways that may work for you and may not work for you. So I think the advantage of using the train with no tag belts is that you avoid all the disorganization that comes with it. And the second thing is that it becomes a distraction. And you want to try and avoid as much as possible distractions, because distraction is the session killer. So you've got tags. And once the player is being tagged, they've got to pass. So this is a very unusual situation in the game, because they won't have this when they move up a level. So as soon as they get tagged, they've got to pass the ball. Now, they can pass to someone who's running onto the ball, but they've got to pass backwards. So this is a skill, and it's probably going to be the time where they're going to pass more than any other time. So that's going to be a bit of a focus. Tag, pass, tag, pass. So how are we going to do that? We can shout it. We can play it without tags, tag, pass. And then the other aspect is the free pass. Now, the free pass is where a player, is my rough approximation of a player, stands here, and he's got the other players 7 meters away, pretty sure it's 7 meters, and they've got to pass to a teammate. I'm going to go on to the tactical part here. This teammate here should be standing pretty much next to them, almost facing them. You don't want to be passing backwards. Now, in terms of the rules, I think you can have a couple of options to play the game in a slightly different way, which might make it easier. The first one is, I like to play the rule, if you go into touch, you lose a tag. It's not a turnover. Because the amounts of times, I mean, these kids, you put lines on the pitch, you put cones on the pitch, but these cones don't seem to represent anything. They're not any barrier, they just run off, and suddenly the team has lost possession, and really, it's not a big thing. So, go into touch, it counts as losing a tag. Now, obviously, you have to agree that with the opposition coach, and if you're going to agree these sorts of slightly developmental rules, it's an email ahead rather than surprise them on the day. You're saying, yeah, we've been running this rule. It's been very, very helpful. Obviously, it works for both sides. Would you mind? And I would be surprised. Well, first of all, if you find a coach who is against it, then you know you're in a different sort of coaching atmosphere. The second one is the food rule. I think we did that, Pushpa, which is about drop balls. Now, you will know from having children that they are often drop food on the floor, and it's normally a race versus the dog to pick up the food. But if you pick it up within 5 seconds, it's okay to eat. Now, that, of course, we know scientifically is not the case. However, if we use that for a ball, and we say, if we drop the ball, you've got 3 seconds to pick it up. It doesn't matter if they've knocked it on or not. Now, under sevens, knock-ons aren't you can play on without that. Under eights, I still think you should allow knock-ons because it just means that the players don't lose confidence on that. Now, that you could play until you could play that for the first 3 blocks with agreement, and then for the last 2 blocks, move away from that. So it's just a gradual movement towards playing, being able to handle. Skills focus, tagging. Learn the rules of tagging. Spend no time on the skills. And I say that because you do need to coach the players how to tag, but I wouldn't spend too much time teaching them great ways to tag. It's just not worth it. You're much better spending your time passing, because really, the truth of it is tagging is not rugby, number one. It is just a means to allow the game to work. Tagging doesn't mean that they become better skilled. It's a great way of rewarding some players, but just learn the rules of tagging and then spend all your time on passing and what I'm going to call the family. So the skills to focus on are catching first. Now, we could be very technical, but I like to use as much as possible what I call external focus metaphors. And these are things which do not talk about things in your body, they talk stuff outside your body, and they're metaphors. And the metaphor means that you are imagining something happening which is not exactly to do with the skill. So when you catch the ball, it's sort of a matter of keep it off the body. Everything in their power to try and keep the ball off their body when they try to catch it. Now, you can demonstrate it. I've used up a lot of space here, but you can demonstrate it. And ways to demonstrate it is maybe just to put your hands up like this. If you put your hands up, there's a chance that you will be able to catch the ball. So there's rather big hands there. It's starting to look, can you tell what it is now? Starting to look like you'll be able to catch the ball. But don't make that the thing. Make it the thing that they keep it off the body. But there's no point in saying keep it off the body if you don't give the why. Why do you keep it off the body? And you can give them 2 key points to hear. Keep it off the body. It's easier to catch because your fingers are on it. And the second thing, it means you can see where the space is. The next question you should be asking them is, why do you need to see space? What's the point? Hopefully they're going to shout out the answer at some stage. We need to see the space because that's where we can run through to score tries. So you give them the reason, keep the ball, keep it off the body. And every time they're playing, can you keep it off the body? Can you keep it off the body? And they'll start to do that. So it could be block 1, how many players on average are keeping the ball off the body? And it could be that your son or daughter or a child, the parents are watching, and you say to them, just count how many times they get the ball, number 1, and how many times they get the ball off their body. And just keep a little track in your head of how many times do that. And that's a brilliant plays point, because really, tag rugby is absolutely not about winning. The wins come from rugby skill outcomes. Fantastic. Richard, you caught 4 balls off the body. That's brilliant. You didn't do that last week. I'm really pleased. Just show everyone what you did. That's fantastic. So there's the wins. And just on that, I just jump into that now, is that if someone scores a try, the first person that you say well done to is the assist. That's the person that you talk to at first, the assist. Who passed them the ball? They get it, because scoring a try is brilliant. We just say, well done, Richard, on the try. Who made the pass? Simon, you made the pass. That's brilliant. Fantastic. Well done, Simon. Everyone say well done to Simon for making the pass. And that's where we get real wins. Now, if the player made a pass and the player nearly scored, we can still celebrate Simon's pass. And this gives us lots of wins, lots of chances for what I would call meaningful praise. Praise which actually has a meaning, which is not just empty of good effort. Now, you've done something which is rugby orientated without us making too much of a fuss whether it went right or wrong. So the first thing on passing is try and keep it off the body. The next one on passing is what I call shoot. And that means you should shoot your hands, shoot the hands towards the target. So here's the person passing the ball. So they should be facing up the pitch. And there's their elbows, and they shoot their hands towards the pass. External focus metaphor, shoot, shoot, shoot. And I'm sure you see on the screen, I have got a rugby coach top on, it's just slipped down here. Shoot is, when you shoot your fingers, you'll see that my wrists fire across my body. And that there passes a lot about the wrists, but we could talk about shoulders, elbows, all sorts of things. Shoot, shoot, shoot. Right, did you shoot? Did you shoot? Show me a shoot, show me a shoot, show me 2 hands shooting towards the target. And that's the key, because we've given them something that they can talk about and they can go back to. And it could be by the first week, by that first game, that first block, we've got two things we want to do in catch and pass. And they should say, yes, okay, coach, keep it off the body and shoot. Okay, let's see what we did. Halftime team talk or bit of a break. Right, remind me, what are the two things we want to do on the catch and the pass? Keep it off the body and shoot. Just to show me what that looks like. Show me what that looks like. Great, excellent. Let's have a go. See if you can do another one in the game. See how that goes. Now, the family, I'm going to have to jump ahead here. Family. Here is the ball carrier. And off they will go. Will they run straight? Absolutely not. There's no way that anyone runs straight in tag because there's taggers in front of them. They're probably going to run sideways. Once off they go running sideways, that's the practicality. We like them to run straight. Is that they were going to have players which are going to be in their support family. And here are the brothers and sisters. And I think you say, right, where are your brothers and sisters? Because they are the close support. And that's when we talk about support. In support, what do we want? I want the ball carrier to brothers and sisters. Stop. Where's your brother and sister? And these are the players which are close. And these are the person who's going to pass the ball. And then we've got the cousins. And the cousins are the people who are going to get the ball next. So where are the cousins? So it just gives them a nice feel to the family. The ball carrier family is here, brothers and sisters. Then we've got the other players, the cousins. And where are the cousins? So in tag, as soon as this player gets tagged, we want them to be able to pass straight away. So we're going to come back to that a little bit in games. Right, tactical focus. Now, you're not running tactics to win games. Slip of T. You're running tactics to give every player a better chance. You're democratizing, I can spell it right, democratizing the game. That means everyone's got a say in the game. So, free pass. Split your players, so you've got 6 players on the pitch, tag, 6, 7, 6, and give them a letter. A, so you give them A, B, B, C, C. So if you're an A, you're a B, you're a C. Hands up who's the A's, and 2 hands go up, who's B's, C, 2 B's, 2 C's. When you set up, from every free pass, A and A stand together. So one A's got the ball, and another A, and the other A is going to be the first receiver, B, B, and C. And that could be the first 4 or 5 free passes of the game. So you do not have a massive cluster around the ball. You always have A and A passing. And that means that these 2 players will play the first few sets of free passes. And then you just swap players around. So, right, who was B last time? Right, you're A. Who was C? You're A. You're B. And who was A? Now you're C. Or you roll the players on, making sure they know their letters. Make sure they know their letters, and then they will have more chances. A little bit of management will probably be in terms of reminding who's the A's, who's the B's, and who's the C's. But that means that players have more chances to get the ball. Do you remember that the free pass has got to be to a static player? Do you make them pass the ball again? My thought is that in the first 2 blocks, you don't worry about that. Maybe the 3rd block of training, you say, right, our ambition is to make 2 passes from the free pass. And by the time we get to the 5th block, let's see if we can make 3 passes. But don't make it an absolute, because it's not tactically what they would do in the game. Why stand still and make 2 passes? Generally, you pass because you're trying to beat defenders in front of you. So that's that. In terms of attack strategy, it is all about speed of pass after the tag. And your training should be how quickly after the tag can you pass the ball. Now, that means that as soon as someone's tagged, they've got to pass the ball almost immediately. They'll probably turn and pass. Now, you will have seen this if you work with under sevens, is that the player gets tagged here, and behind him or her, it's got this player here, and their friend here. So what happens is that this player doesn't get the pass, this player doesn't get the pass, this player comes through and gets the pass. Well, if you are working on the speed of pass after the tag, that person there turns around and he's got to pass it pretty much immediately to one of the family. And this is where we talked about the family. You pass to the family, you pass to your close family, you pass to your brothers and sisters, you don't pass to your cousins. Cousins will be getting the ball the next time around. So that's the attack strategy. Notice I'm going defense strategy. I'm not worried about defensive tag. That's my own view. I think it's you're much better off spending your time on catch, pass, and support. What does training look like? You've got 1 hour. 1 hour generally. Interesting effort on my pen now. 1 hour generally, and that's about enough. You know that they can't last more. You need to have some engaged. So your opening part of your session will be fun warm-ups. Now on the site, I've got a new version of Bulldogs, which I think works really well. And that is where 3 taggers stay on for 4 rounds. You don't add in taggers, they stay on for 4 rounds. And you get extra points for catching someone. So have a look at that new one, which is on the site, different version of Bulldogs. So you get the players moving quickly. The next thing is that you need to have in your blocks some skills. And the skills should only last for 5 minutes. And they should focus on one thing only in each of those skills blocks. And as I said earlier, the first skill block could be keep the ball off the body. Okay, we're going to play games or little exercises where we're just going to practice keeping the ball off the body. Stop after 5 minutes and either go back into an engaged game or play a bigger game and then come back in. And these breaks are absolutely essential. I've seen this work absolutely brilliantly with a coach who'd been through with first son through to under 14s. He'd come back down to tag, and I watched him. And he's not a teacher. He's I think he works in the city insurance actually. But what he was doing, he split his session up: 5 minutes, stop, snack, 5 minutes. Stop, snack. And in those things, he had the parents in the action a lot, either watching over a skills thing. So on the site, you will see parent coach activities where you can get a parent to watch over a very simple skills activity. And some of them are about evasive skills. You notice I haven't talked too much about evasive skills because in tag rugby, evasive skills are not really what you'd see in later on, but we want to help them become more athletic. So parent coach stuff. However, you will want to play as much as possible. And when I say play, you want to play tag rugby, which means you run towards one try line, only one try line, and you pass the ball backwards and you use a rugby ball. Now, in the engage, you may have multiple try lines. You may use different shape balls. You may pass in any direction. However, these kids will have lots of opportunities to play with different shape balls. They'll have lots of games which are multi-directional. They're coming to rugby. The hardest thing about rugby is focusing on one try line. It's really hard to give them, don't give them too many things in their brains, give them very, very few things to think about. So we're always generally attacking one try line. No, nothing clever. You've got 3 lines to try and tackle. There's one red one attack, one red one blue one white one. No. Just one try line. Every single game, I'm attacking one try line. That's all I got to worry about. Which way do I run? I've always got to run somewhere towards that try line. And if I've got to pass the ball, I've got to pass it backwards. I've always got to do that and not having to work on throwing forwards. And finally, such a difficult ball to work with is a rugby ball. So the more times they have got their hands on a rugby ball, the better. So play tag rugby, play 3v2 tag rugby, 4v6 tag rugby, 1v2, lots and lots of different versions, different sizes of the pitch, always playing towards a try line, always passing backwards, always using a rugby ball. Right, just flown over the time a little bit there. So key for me, block your season out, work in blocks, then you've got little targets for the players to hit. As much as possible, make it into a little game of some sort. Not everything can be done in a game, but most things can be, and some with a little bit of competition. But with this competition, make the competition very simple to understand, not complex rules, not very high levels of scoring. You get 2 points for this, 4 points for that, 8 points for this. It is probably a try is a good way of making your points, but maybe very simple ones so they know what's coming up. Passing rate is important as the season goes on. 1 pass from the tag would be brilliant. By the block 3, can you get 2 passes away? Some players will be doing it already. Some players will struggle. And remember, because we've got the family, we're passing to brothers and sisters. Who's your brother? Who's your sister? Are you passing to them? Not your friend, you're passing to your brothers and sisters. And then if you're feeling very good, if you've really cracked it, everything's gone well, then you get 3 passes in. And that would be an absolute dream by block 5 at the end of the season. And you probably do it already. It's not half a game, it's just equal time on the pitch. And that's for me, that's the important thing, is that everybody gets the same amount of time on the pitch, and you just rotate every couple of minutes, well, every 4 or 5 minutes, very clear on the A's, B's, C's. So that is a rattling through in about 30 minutes of some ideas around tag rugby. If anyone's got any questions, I'm going to stay online as long as people want me to. I think the best idea is probably to unmute and ask, or if you're feeling you want to drop a message, put a message into the chat area. So happy for anyone to jump in at any stage. Or I suppose you could put your hand up. Well, just while we're waiting, if anyone wants to jump in, a couple of other things. Keep the session to 1 hour and absolutely finish on time. Crack, that's it, finished, our hour's up. Everyone will appreciate, parents as well, in terms of them picking kids up, but I'm saying try and get the parents into it as much as possible. Now, obviously not going to be playing. There are a couple of little games you can play with the parents, maybe so like a one-on-one type situation, but you can get the parents in behind the exercises, cheering on, thoroughly involved. That's great for everybody, certainly great for the kids. If you've got very nervous kids, one of the things I've picked up this year, which I think makes really interesting, is a new kid arrives, run us a little session next to it for some of the new kids here, and they can be playing, and there's got the big game here, and then you can tell where this new kid is looking over and thinking, yeah, maybe I can join in. So that's the new kids. But this new kid, when they arrive, immediately they'll have a buddy. So every new kid, right? You're buddying with this person. This person's going to look after you, and they will be the one who's encouraging you. If anyone wants to jump in, Helen.
Dan, I've got a question, if it's all right.
Yeah.
You mentioned the fact that certainly under sevens tend to run sideways, lateral, off the pitch, etc., etc. Any tips about preventing them from running backwards before they take a forward step?
Well, the first thing is that we got to see we got to understand what picture they're seeing first of all. It is, as you can guess, it is question which comes up every year. So here's the ball carrier, and they receive the pass here. Here's the ball carrier receiving the pass. So what do they see in front of them? Actually, they don't see any space to run. This running through tag players is very difficult. So here's what I suggest is that you say to the player, when you receive the first pass, I want you to run at this player here, run at them. And that from a free pass is your target. Now, that's block one. Block two is see if you can beat them. But if they've got that as a target, as opposed to look for space, well, the space is very hard to see because first of all, you can't kick it over them. Secondly, you're going to have to run all the way around to get there. You're not going to 3 or 4 passes. So that's what I would suggest in terms of that. Now, that people say, oh, is there a drill? Well, no, the answer is no, because really it's an awareness piece. And you're trying to teach an under 7 a huge amount about a very complex game. So let's give them something easy to do. Bit of run at the third person and see what happens. If you may get through them. And of course, then you've got your family of your brothers and sisters to back them up. So, yeah, I mean, they will run backwards. And you just got to say, well, what did we say we wanted to do? What was the idea? Oh, yeah, I want to run at the second player out. So beforehand, you will not shout at them. You'll be reminded of who you're running at, and then they'll run at the third person, you hope, and then you'll see what happens. Does that make some sense?
It makes perfect sense, I guess, because as soon as you start turning running space, well, the biggest piece of space they can see is behind them, isn't it? So
well, exactly, absolutely, and we almost got to sort of rip up the rules of coaching rugby to make it effective at tag, and that's just a difficult thing. And if you've been involved in rugby at all, you'll be thinking that doesn't make sense. Well, why we tell them to run at space? Well, there isn't any space, and I mean, yes, even in the days when you were playing rugby, when I think back 20, 30 years ago, when I was their age, it was over 40 years ago, you had absolutely no clue. So yeah, quite right. Yeah, they're running space because it's behind them. Yeah, exactly. I hope that starts that question. So I've got another one is Andrew. Do you have so many? Yeah, they from not from a tag, but from a free pass. And apologies, I have my head 7 meters, but I'm just having a bit of a panic. It might be 5 meters, but obviously that's in the. I will. There's also some great stuff from Keith Lewis from rugbyreferees.net, which I shall share with you afterwards. But once a tag's been made, they need to be on the side of the opposition. So a little game that I play to play an onside game is called ball and back. Ball and back. So try line. You are either nominated as a ball player or a back player, and everyone runs around in this area here, and you carry a ball. you can get a player to carry, but I think you better carry the ball. And then you stop and you shout tackle. If you're facing this way, everyone who's a ball player needs to line up facing the ball across the pitch, and everyone who's a back player needs to line up facing your back. And you have another coach at the side, and they say which team is spread out across the pitch, and they get the idea of being onside. That onside thing is a very difficult thing. So generally, wherever the ball is, you've got to be on the correct side of it.
Okay.
Try line just helps
I've had
out.
some, well, children, when they're tagging someone, doing tagging matches in the past, they've been sort of running sideways to get the next tag, you know, very quickly and sort of killing the game off a bit.
Well, and of course, so what they're supposed to do is to hand the tag back. So once you've made a tag, again, what do kids do? They make a tag, they throw it on the ground. And what you have to do as much as you can is that once you've made a tag, I would say to them, I would make, this is my own personal rule, once you've made a tag, you can't make the next tag. So you're out of the game.
Okay.
It's not in the laws, but I just think it just means, as you're quite right, they make a tag, they run across, you have this sort of superhero tagger who makes 12 tags in a row.
Right. Yeah, I've seen a few of the kids do that in under sevens and under sixes last year. Yeah, so it's good to know about that, definitely.
Yeah, it's again, I think it's what you're trying to do again. I said like the thing at the start about if they run out of play, don't make it a turnover, is that you can ask the other coach to do this. Now, if you come up against a coach who says, I don't want to do that, that's not the game, you have to accept it. But it just shows really where you're going with that coach, because then they're not developmentally minded. As I said, you want to try and democratize the game, which means that everybody has a say in the game, as opposed to one or two superstars. And inevitably, two, three, four players will dominate because cognitively they're far ahead of their peers for a variety of reasons. So does that make a bit of sense?
No, it does. And you know, they've been playing some not bad rugby, but when we went to tournaments, last year the under sevens, we came up against a few teams which they had some leaders, like you say, maybe older brothers, whatever. They were organising the back line. It was actually quite it was nice to see, you know, they were organising a defensive line for the under sevens tournaments, which was impressive, to be truthful. Yeah.
I think that the sometimes the scary thing is, and I certainly did it for a long time, and it took a long time before I didn't. I stopped doing it. Is you compare yourself to other teams, and you can think, well, why aren't we like that? But if you're working these little blocks, you know how well these players are getting on, and the games use the games as a test of where you are, not where you are in comparison to other teams. And number one, are they enjoying it? Are they getting some satisfaction? Are they pleased to be there? And then everything else on top of that is a bonus. Obviously, it's nice to beat your rivals.
Yeah, no, do you know
who doesn't? But not. Yeah. That's not. We all know, really, in the end, that's not why we're there. Yeah, it's going to happen. And the other thing about festivals is that sometimes people bring their best team. And that's always frustrating, because if someone celebrates on social media they won the under eights cup, local under eights cup at the festival, I think there's other things to celebrate. Is my thought.
Yeah, no, that's I'll take that on board. But I mean, yeah, they still are playing some good rugby, the youngsters.
Oh, brilliant!
Which is good, really. Yeah, it's good.
Whereabouts are you?
Maidstone.
Right.
Maidstone. Yeah.
Right. So that's not a broad Maidstone accent that you've got there. See, so I was a bit confused there.
No, there's a Maidstone guy, Mark, that sort of heads it up, and I've just been helping out between them and my younger son, who's been in reception, so doing the under sixes. So yeah, I've just been helping out. But
I think it's a big club, isn't it?
Do you know what? I think with the pandemic, it sort of broke it up a bit, but the numbers seem to be building back up in the
Well, that's
younger
good to hear.
groups. I couldn't really comment on the senior teams because I'm sort of I haven't been playing for about 12 years, something like that. So yeah, I mean, I'm not involved with that.
Okay, well, good luck with that. And I just say that the conversation doesn't finish here. I mean, we'll pick up some things here. Please drop me a line after you've done sessions and say, yeah, Dan, that brilliant, that absolutely works. Of course, we absolutely like it and say, Dan, that was a disaster. What did I do wrong? Or it might have not you've done something wrong. So share what you're doing and say if it works or it doesn't work. Had a really good chat with a guy up in Percy Park who've been trying out some things, and he added some really interesting wrinkles on it. So we'll be sharing that with some other under nine. So Alistair said, pitch isn't playable. A classroom session with under eights, it depends what you're going to be doing in the classroom, but I wouldn't run one, and only because I think that you're going to be learning. You're not going to be learning the stuff that is going to make a difference to them. If you can get them together in a classroom and you can have great fun doing other things, then that's absolutely brilliant. But I can't, unless you can play rugby in the classroom or a game of something. I'm not sure. So, Alistair, I'm not sure if that helps answer the question, and I know that pitches can be unplayable for big chunks, which actually reminds me of a point before you jump in, is that if we've got blocks in the season, it may not work, but actually have a week off. This week we're not going to train. Now, for some, they've got brothers, sisters in other teams, but it might mean that, for instance, a coach who's working with the under eights maybe have got someone older, they can go and watch them. So have a week off, because they don't need to be playing rugby every single week. Make them hungry to come back. Yeah, we're looking forward to come back. So this week's our break week. And another one is that 4 or 5 years of being very grumpy about it and saying, of course, we're going to play a game of rugby on this day, is Mothering Sunday is definitely a non-rugby day. And it's not, it shouldn't be where it's not really about, it's more a parenting Sunday is right. You don't have to get up at 8 o'clock and find the boots and the kit and that sort of thing. Kids are immensely disorganized. We can't give them much control on many things, and certainly getting themselves up and out is a nightmare. So let's just have some breaks into the season. So, Alistair, a weekend off isn't, in my opinion, harmful at all. It certainly won't make any difference to their development, and it may well help your sanity. There are some classroom things you can do, but probably not. What is that? Have you got some ideas? Am I barking up the wrong tree there? What do you think? Maybe I've sent him off thinking I never want to do a classroom again. Anyone else want to jump in with any questions? Yeah, Caroline, Caroline's iPhone, whoever's on that. Yeah, onside defense is a nightmare. It's a nightmare under nines, under tens, and with the players, they've got so many things going on that to get onside in what is looks like chaos. And so that's a good word for me to talk about, actually. Chaos. Chaos. No one learns in chaos. Don't create things which are chaotic. Try and create things which are not chaotic, but have a little element of difficulty. And if it has a little element of difficulty, that will cause enough problems for them. Don't create chaos, reduce it, give them plenty of opportunities so they learn why they're doing it. If they're just running around in circles, screaming at the top of their voices, that's great. That's how fun is that? They're not learning anything. They're just having a great time. So that's brilliant. That's the engage part. But if you want to learn, take chaos out of the game, add in some little extra element of difficulty. So if the difficulty is the catch pass and they've got to keep the ball off the body, that's enough. If you are third block, a little bit of difficulty, let's see if we can get the third pass in. Let's see if we can do it. That's the element of difficulty. And yeah, trying to get them on side. Well, that is it's a bit of herding cats, I think is the expression. Anyone else want to jump in? As I say, I'll stick around. I'm not going until everyone signs out. So if you want to leave, please do. Obviously, lots of things to get on with. It's been fantastic to get so many people in. Pushpa, jump in.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah, it's just about your rule about the family passing to the brothers and sisters and staggering to the cousins.
Yeah.
I often find that the cousins lose interest in the game very quickly, but if the ball is not passed to them immediately, they kind of tend to resent that hierarchy of passing. And
Yeah, so I get, yeah, so probably can explain that as well. As what you said is quite right. So what you do is every time there's a ball carrier, the person either side of them is the brother and the sister, or the brother and the brother, whoever's there. And that means that every time that happens, they know that. Now, if this ball gets passed to here, this person now becomes the ball carrier. And this person here is either the new brother and there's a sister there. So we get up to here and there's the tag happens here. So the nearest two players are the brother and the sister, or the brothers or the sisters. No one else. So they can only pass to them. So once they pass to them, that person goes off, and whoever's on this side is maybe redundant because it's one of the cousins over here is now in the game. It just gives us, you're right. If there were only two brothers on the team, that would be it. But that's why I use the AABBCC, is that AA will get a lot of the ball for the first 3 or 4 minutes. And then BB might get it from the free pass, and then you change them over. So it's different. So it's whoever's A2, B2, B2. Does that make sense? I mean, exactly. They will get very bored if they don't get past the ball. I mean, that's you want to get as many touches on as possible.
yeah, it sounds good on paper. It's just that I struggle to make it work on the pitch.
Absolutely. I tell you what, it is. It looks great on paper. It is a hard thing to do. And what you're trying to do is almost, you're saying, I'm going to try and get this right, is what you're saying is that this is where we would love to go in terms of skill and awareness. And that's time. But the reality is that we are probably going like this. But the fact that we are on an upward slope is better than not going anywhere at all, because it is extremely hard to bridge that gap because of the cognitive load of rugby. It is an extremely complicated game. There are so many elements in it. And that I can't remember who said it earlier on. 1 or 2 players can easily dominate, and what we've got to try and do is we've got to upskill players as much as possible and keep them in the game. And maybe that's our progress, but maybe we start to get little jumps as we go along because something starts to click, and then here we get another little jump because something else starts to click. It is hard. Thinking that you can crack tag rugby is I think if we can almost step back and say, I'm not going to crack tag rugby. What I'm going to crack is, can more players touch the ball this season than last season? Number one. Can more players catch the ball off their chest or off their body? Great, we've made some progress there. Can they actually get a bit of a shoot with their hands with the pass? That's great. And then all the praise which comes with it, and all the cheerfulness, the positivity. That's where we start to get the growth. And yeah, very good players will rise up very, very quickly, and other players will drift in and drift out in their little rugby journeys and may never get beyond tag rugby. So I don't ever think hopefully no one ever says tag rugby will be easy to coach, because it isn't. However, the benefits from a coaching point of view are fantastic, and the benefits to the kids of being out, fresh air, learning to be better human beings with each other, that's enormous value. Just keeping them away from electronic devices is even better. So there's a little bit of light and shade in that, I hope. Yeah, so Chris, Chris, that's a great question you just asked there about focus. And I've got a very good podcast on the website, which I just reminded people about today. It's by Andrew Watson, and he talks about how do you keep the players' attention. And there are three elements to it. One is what's called executive attention, which means that you understand, the players understand what they're doing. We're playing some rugby here. If you ask them what you're doing and they say, well, we're learning to make ice cream, then you haven't got their attention. So you haven't got that in there. The second one is what's it's called orientation, but we'll call it distraction. Now, if you imagine, I don't know how you're watching me on this webinar, but you will know if you've got, say, 4 or 5 other screens open at the same time, and maybe 1 or 2 of them are playing videos at the same time, then you'll be distracted. I wish it was you were fully onto what I'm saying, but you'll be distracted. So you've got to try as best you can to avoid those distractions. So you do simple things like you stand facing the sunshine. You stand facing all the other teams running around on the pitches. So you've really got as little behind you as possible. And the last thing is if they're overexcited. And you've got to get them to calm down. And we know, as parents or former parents of kids of that age, when you say to a kid, calm down, it never happens. Well, I mean, on a very rare occasion, someone able to do it. So what are the calming activities? Well, the first thing is to slow everything down. Let's have a break. Let's go and have a snack. And when they come back in, bring them in, and then there are some sort of little teacher ones where you bring them back in. Right, okay, let's come back in. Well done, Helen, as you're arriving. Keep you very quiet, watch what Helen's doing, that's the thing. Everything's really quiet. Okay, let's go again. So you give them a break, come back in. So that's one way of reducing the excitement, but that will not work if you haven't got this part right, the distraction part. And the thing is, if they're not attending to what you're going to be doing. So they don't know what you're doing, then they're wandering around, what am I bothering? So, right, we're going to start in a moment, and we're going to play a game of bull tag. So, and you can see, you can hear my voice, hopefully, just trying to be as calm as possible. Hand up, right. We're going to play a game of bull tag. I want you and you to be the 3 taggers. Can you go off into the box? Can everyone go and stand over there? And there you go back to a game that they've played before, so you're not having to go there, and you just read the situation. There's a bit of coaching craft in it. If you're in a maths lesson at school and you've got to get through some curriculum stuff, well, it's a different thing. You're on in different territory, but you are in a classroom, which gives you a big advantage. So again, it's not easy. All you need is one kid to break wind or say something stupid, and you break the spell. So he's going to take some time to get back in. So that's why I say send them away, bring them back in. Let's do something that we know, and maybe we won't do something so complicated. And yeah, again, there's a few other things that I can add in probably on that. But if you get a chance to listen to Andrew Watson on attention, then that's quite good as well. It's on the site. Any other questions? Feel free to jump in. If you want to go, please drop out. Thank you, Andrew. Thanks for your input as well.
Just on the point of attention, Dan, is it okay? There are some weeks where the kids are really tired. Is it okay to just finish the game early, the training early, around 40-45 minutes?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's I don't think there's any harm in that at all. Yeah. Sometimes, I mean, it's a cold day. There may have someone had a party the night before, and they've been maybe a sleepover, or they've come back from a school trip or something like that. Yeah, you judge it, and why not? He's just saying, great, right? Last score wins now. You don't even say we're finishing early. Last score wins. Great, had a great session. Well played. Thank you very much. Yeah, and why not? Because you don't want to be flogging them throughout. Yeah, I think that's good. I would, yeah, definitely. I think if you finished early every single week, then maybe it's there's something to do with the kids. But an hour is maximum, so maybe it tells you that 45 minutes works. So you tend to be on the Astro, don't you? So you're probably going to be a bit better off than if you're on the grass. But yeah, why not? Okay, well, if no one's got any more questions, obviously feel free to drop me a line. You'll have my email. I'll send out a recording of this, and I'm going to stop the recording now. And if anyone wants to continue the chat anytime, Chris is clapping rather than waving his hand. Hey, thanks very much. Thanks for joining in, Chris. I will stop the recording and